moral, so you just inflict it on other people. Sometimes people do that, and you don't know why. And sometimes the person who might be the nastiest person you meet may be the person who's feeling the most amount of hurt, but you don't know it because you don't know the story behind their experience. So I felt as if the world would be a better place without me, and the best thing I could do was to remove myself from it. So in August 1999, I attempted to commit suicide. So on the summer evening, and it was August 13th, I swallowed entire content of my family's medicine cabinet. So it was quite a few pills, a lot of mixed stuff, and as I was fading, I had the just sudden urge just to change my mind, and I managed to put my fingers down my throat, vomited all over myself, and started passing out. I woke up hours later. I was covered in vomit, covered in my own pee. It was disgusting, but I felt good because I was alive. Pumping headache, and had heartburn for about 6 months afterwards from the cocktail of stuff that had just gone into my system that I hadn't managed to throw up. So it was a pretty harrowing adventure, knowing that you're about to die, thinking that you've done it yourself. It's a horrible, horrible thing to bring yourself to end your life. But at the same time, as we've seen earlier, I would not have been able to experience all those things that I've experienced over the last 17 years if I hadn't have put my fingers down my throat, if I hadn't have changed my mind at the last minute. So I survived it. I was ashamed, very, very ashamed at having done this. At the time, there was a lot of 1999, it was different to today. And we were just talking about this earlier. We were saying that at that time, to commit suicide, you were weak. It was cowardly. It was something like, how could you do that? You should be ashamed of yourself for being weak. And that was very much kind of in the thought process of everybody. So I hid this for years. For about 5 years, until after I finished my degree in third level, I did not talk to anybody about my suicide attempt. Nobody. It was only through close friends who had actually mentioned this that I said, well, actually I had a similar experience. And we started talking about it. And in college, we started to form a kind of a peer support group where people could talk to each other privately about suicide attempts or feelings of depression or just generally feeling down. It was a very difficult time. But the thing is, once you finish with suicide or depression, it's not just an instant cure. Mental health isn't something that, it's not like a kind of a physical health where you take a pill and you're cured. This is more along the lines of something like exercise. You need to regularly keep mentally fit for you to avoid unfitness and leading down that dark path, because sometimes it can bring you back. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel down last week, last year, 2 years ago. It always comes back at some stage, and it will always come back to some of us. But we have to always remind ourselves of what we can do, that we're worth more than we are, or that we think we are. And we just need to continue battling that kind of feeling. So in those times, the doctors, as I said, I went to one doctor about the physical impacts of the overdose, or the attempted overdose, because there was a lot of vomiting afterwards, there was a lot of heartburn, which I'd never experienced before, and I explained the situation about how I was feeling, not about the suicide attempt, but how I was feeling about depression, feeling very down, and the attitude very much was to toughen up. So in 1999, the idea of mental health was an idea, it wasn't a reality. People and doctors didn't realise that actually this is a very serious subject. We need to start talking about this, we need to start helping each other. It wasn't something that people really kind of engaged with each other on. So at that time, there wasn't really a medical way out of this. What I tried to do was I tried to make my life as meaningful as possible. So that's what led me to doing those things that we saw earlier about going overseas, working in orphanages, working in the war-torn countries that we talked about. And this is what saved me in the end. To live a meaningful life. And you don't have to go overseas to do that. You can do it right here. You can go out and visit a neighbour. You can go and talk to someone who might look like they feel a bit down. If you don't know how to do that, you can go and do free courses to show you how to do that, to both bolster and boost your confidence to approach people. And even doing that might actually lift you up out of what you might be feeling on the off chance as well. So each of you is worth more than you think you are. You're all priceless. You're all entirely valuable. Life is so precious. It's important that you don't throw it away, because for this particular moment, you feel like you're not worth anything. You're worth everything. And I thought I was worth absolutely nothing and tried to commit suicide as a result. Because I failed, I managed to touch so many other people's lives. I know I've been able to save people's lives directly. I know I've been indirectly able to help people save their own lives throughout the years. But if I had succeeded in trying to commit suicide when I was 18, they may not be here, and several people may not be here. So even that slight chance has a knock-on effect to other people. It's really important to take that into account. It's just to say, it might take years, it might take months. The journey is different for everybody. But if you feel down, if you feel vulnerable in yourself, just be assured and rest assured that you'll always get there. Life's not about going up, 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 up. It's ups and downs. But for every down, there is an up. So when you're feeling down and you're feeling like you're in a dark place, there will always be a way out, a way up, and a brightness at the end of it. Don't ever feel like there's a problem that you can't get out of. And don't ever feel like suicide is a solution, because it's the only thing you can't come back from. So don't try it. Do try and find a way out. So I just want to say thank you very much, and take questions if you want. Thank you.
Any questions, folks? What caused you to feel like that?
It was a combination of different things, and I actually only figured it out about 5 or 6 years ago when I started seeing a counsellor for the first time about the problems that I had experienced when I was 18. Going over it. It was the pressure of being a parent for my sisters. It was the pressure of hurting my friends and having no friends as a result. And then the pressure of the academic challenge and getting crap results. So everything in my life had just turned down. Yeah, everything was going on a downward spiral. And because I was so negative about it, I was pushing it down even more. So that's basically what led me to want to just get out. It was a moment of... People ask the question, is it brave or is it cowardly to commit suicide? And the answer is yes, both. It is both cowardly to try and run away from your problems. You should try and face them. But it's also brave to try and take that step of doing something which is terrifying. And sometimes people try and think that this is the only way. It's not. So I would say try not to do this. Try to talk to someone about your problems in the off chance that you might be wrong about the result or the solution that you have in mind. Yeah, that's what led me to it.
Just another question. How did you get out of that? Well, how did you make your mind change out of that downward spiraling?
Yeah, it was basically talking to other people about how they deal with it. It was that kind of peer support group that we had in college. We didn't have, there was no SOSAD. There was no kind of Samaritans available. There were no services. There were no phone numbers advertised that we could ring. So we just talked to each other. And we started the first ever group in our university in Dublin at the time. And we just started kind of coming up with ideas about, if we have a problem, we just need to sit down and talk about it. And that's what kind of got me out of the spiral. That I'd be feeling very down on a Friday evening. I'd feel very down with the idea of having to come back to Cavan from Dublin and face my mother, who's an alcoholic, and ask my sisters about how was the week and hear about her vomiting on herself or her having to pick her up or anything like that. And it would really get to me. I wouldn't want to go home. By Monday, I'd be back in that dark place. But Monday evening, we would always meet up and talk about our problems. And talking about the problems in a positive way is the important thing. If you talk about them and just kind of, no solutions, you need to talk about them in a positive way to dig yourself out. And that's what helped, talking to someone. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks.
Yeah. So what do you do to maintain a healthy well-being, and what's your example of what you should do?
Well, there's a few things. The first thing...
you would do rather than
no, me personally. And that's what this... I was brought here from a personal point of view, so I have no kind of professional solutions. This is all personal. From a personal point of view, socialising with people is important. Keeping a balanced life. It's all about that. I know people kind of drill at home that eating healthy and exercising, and they are important, but having a balanced life is probably the most important thing. And having someone you can just generally talk to and don't feel alone. Because when you're alone, sometimes your mind can play tricks on you and convince you of the worst outcome in the situation, make you think that you are not worth as much as you think you are. But when you work with other people or you talk to other people, that's half the battle to get you out of it. And maybe you start to doubt your own criticisms, and that helps a lot, huge amount. So the exercise, healthy eating is important, but it's socialising and just talking to people is very, very important. Yeah. Thanks.
Do you feel like your purpose is to help other people get better? Is that like what makes you feel better?
No, because that would be a crutch. For me personally, if I was, the only way for me to feel better was to make other people feel better, that's not being healthy. That's leaning on other people to help myself. My purpose is to feel better first. Then and only then can I help other people feel better. Because there's always that possibility that you might export negative feelings or negative emotions to someone you're trying to help. It's like when you're studying to be a counsellor, for example, you have to be counselled before you counsel. So, no, my meaning is definitely not to help other people have meaningful lives, it's to have a meaningful life myself, first and foremost. I know it sounds selfish, but sometimes you have to be selfish to help others.
You said that you came from a background where that you're the same sister and like the younger sister, or like,
yeah.
Like obviously you were like 5 if you did, like, so that was you helping them, like you would obviously feel proud of it, like that, like,
Yeah.
That makes you feel a little bit better.
At the time, I was proud that I was helping them, but it wasn't enough to keep me afloat. It still wasn't enough. I knew I was helping them at the time when I was 18, but it certainly, and it went through my mind as I took the medicine cabinet out. It did go through my mind, I'm leaving them behind. But I thought, no, this is my time, I need to get out of this, I don't want to be here anymore. This is not a life I want to live. And instead of trying to change that, I just wanted to hit stop and start. I wanted to stop the computer and restart it, as the technicians always tell you to do. But I suppose the most important thing is that although you get a sense of pride out of helping people, that's important, but it has to be done as long as you have a meaning for your own life. You need to find your meaning to live, but only then can you help other people find their meaning. Thanks.
Okay, Daniel, thank you very much for your bravery. Okay, yeah, no, because that's not easy. Okay, so thank you very much for coming in. I think we touched a lot, but okay, maybe make us all kind of think about things maybe differently.
Well, that was Daniel. So the next up was from SOSAD, and her name is Christine Wynne.
I didn't hear the other speakers today, so I hope I'm not repeating myself, because I'm not sure how many of us were here for all the other talks. First of all, Daniel, amazing. I know that I have met Daniel through SOSAD, and I've worked alongside him on a professional level. I'm sure you were a mighty teenager, but you've turned out to be a mighty man, and I am so glad that you weren't successful in you, because you have touched everybody. My name is Christine Wynne. I am the coordinator for SOSAD in Cavan, and I'm also the area supervisor for our other 6 branches. I just want to give you the statistics first of all. We all talk about, healing and everything, but to give you factual numbers. We all hear about the road deaths, and while the road deaths are obviously usually important as well when somebody dies that way, we hear about them all the time. They're on the news, they're in the papers. We know people who have been killed in road accidents and stuff like that. Those statistics for 2015, which we're still working off, were 166. Suicide statistics for the same year were 451. And we don't hear about those 451. We hear about just the ones that maybe are local or somebody we might know, or unfortunately sometimes a family or a friend. We know those statistics are not true. We figure that number is probably around 700. They are recorded statistics, and that is down to the coroner. It has to be 100% sure of a suicide before it can be recorded as such. So single vehicle accidents, drownings, some farming accidents, stuff like that would be suicide, but they can't be proven to be that, so they're not recorded as such. So that's 451. 375 of those were men, because men are, unfortunately, they're not like us women, well, me personally anyway, yappers, and they don't talk. And while women are fantastic for meeting for tea and coffee, one man will generally say to the other, let's go for a pint. And alcohol itself is a depressant, so all these things are knock-on effects, but men are still statistically, from I think on the very first statistic, are a higher figure. Suicide's terminology is the intentional taking of one's own life. And as Daniel has already hit on, that is it. That is so final. There is no more final than dying from suicide. You cannot come back. What I speak to you about today briefly is what we deal with in SOSAD on a day-to-day basis. So we are dealing with people who have survived a suicide attempt, people who are feeling suicidal, and also those who have been bereaved by suicide. So we